What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of SacTown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kier, and this is Jason. And today we are back reviewing a new film that is streaming currently on Netflix, which is called Concrete Cowboy, or as I like to call it, Boys in the Hood on Horses. So we'll be getting into that in just a second here. You know what? I say I'm going to go ahead and take this one off. So I say we just get right into it right away. So let me go ahead and bring that in. So Concrete Cowboy. Before I actually talk about the film itself, well, I guess it's part of the film as well. So basically, if you're not aware of Concrete Cowboy, you're not aware of the film, basically, just to kind of go through general, it's loosely based on real characters or a real place, I guess, if you will. So basically, there are real predominantly black cowboys that actually live in Philadelphia off of like a popular street called Fletcher Street, where it's basically kind of in the suburbs. And people actually have like real horses and they ride horses and they wear cowboy hats. And and they call them the Fletcher Street riders, I believe. So they're actually real cowboys that live in Philadelphia. Go figure. And so this movie is kind of basically based on that and based on the characters. The movie stars Caleb McLaughlin as Cole. And if you don't know who he is, he's basically one of the stars of Stranger Things. And the reason why I say it's kind of like Boys in the Hood on horses is because it has kind of a similar plot. He's basically living in a city with his mom as a single mom, and he's getting in trouble in school. And because he's getting in so much trouble, his mom then goes and basically forces him to go live with his dad, essentially for the summer, to kind of like straighten him out. However, just like in Boys in the Hood, basically, he doesn't have a whole lot of doesn't really know his father that well. He knows who he is, but he's probably never lived with him, doesn't know anything about him. And his father is actually played by Idris Elba in this case. And so he goes to live with his father and, immediately basically notices that there are people wearing cowboy hats that are, African-American, and then also starts noticing horses. And then when he goes to his father's house,
in the living room.
Huh?
Oh,
yeah,
in the living room.
Yeah, his father actually has a horse in his living room in the house. And so basically the film is kind of goes from there. It's basically about him basically trying to kind of find himself. His dad is kind of absent-minded in some capacities, but is also like teaching him about kind of like the cowboy life and kind of what they do. And Cole basically wants to eventually, I guess, ride horses, and has to learn that basically if you want to ride a horse, you're going to have to do the work, which is basically, cleaning out the horse stables, because there's a stable where they keep all their horses at, cleaning out the horse stables, washing the horses, doing all kinds of other sorts of things. Meanwhile, Cole also comes in contact with, I guess, a kid that he knew back when he visited there before. It's still a little fuzzy on that for me, and I'll get into that in just a minute. But as part of my critique, it's still a little fuzzy on that. But he basically comes in contact with a boy that's kind of basically that he knew as a kid. That's basically kind of like living the gangbanger life, and is basically dealing drugs and that kind of stuff. And he kind of takes Cole under his wing, and they're basically going out and they're basically, I guess, kind of scheming off of like a bigger drug dealer's turf and basically kind of getting involved in that. And his father, who also used to, I guess, be part of that life and be into that kind of stuff, doesn't want him associating with this boy and doesn't want him hanging out with him and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of like the gist of the film. And so it's basically about him living in two different worlds. Basically, he's living like this cowboy life, urban cowboy life, if you will. And then he's also kind of hanging out with the wrong crowd as well. And he's, basically having to decide where he wants to go. So like I said, kind of real similar plot, in my opinion, to Boys in the Hood, if you've seen that movie, because it's almost that same pattern where he's single boy. In this case, it was Cuba Gooding Jr. living with his mom. getting in trouble. So his mom sends him to go live with his dad for a little bit, and he's kind of getting involved with some kids that are into gang banging and that kind of stuff, and his dad doesn't want him getting involved in that kind of stuff. So it has a kind of a similar story, only in this case they're cowboys, and they ride cowboys and keep horses. They ride not cows, but they ride horses and keep horses and that sort of stuff. And that's kind of the gist of the story without going too much into exactly what happens and what the end result is. Overall, I thought it was a decent film. I mean, it's not anything bad. The acting's good. It's a decent film. I did have a few issues with it. Primarily, I was a little fuzzy on. He didn't really know his dad, and he didn't really know about the horse style or the horse lifestyle that they were living. Like, that was all foreign to him. But he knew who his dad was, and he somehow knew who this other kid was as well. So I was a little confused, like how he knew who this kid was from childhood, but they all pretty much all grew up around horses. So I'm like, did he not remember that part of it? And I was also a little confused because he hadn't been there, because I mean, he's like 17 now in this film, 16, 17 in this film. And I don't know, he was clearly a kid when he left Philly or Fletcher Street. And the boy, basically, that when he comes back, his friend, basically his name's Smush in this film, Smush recognizes him like right away, and she's like, "Hey, Cole, it's me, Smush. You remember me?" And like basically gets him in the car and they go driving off together, which I thought was kind of weird. You know what I mean? I'm like, somebody you haven't seen in 10, 15 years or something like that, and they just recognize you that quickly. But whatever. And then the other issue I had is they use a lot of the real cowboys in the film as actors. So a lot of the people in the film were actually real, were the real Concrete Cowboys, actually. So they were the real people, that the riders, they had horses and that sort of stuff, and they were in the film, and they were fine. They all did a decent job. One of them in particular is one in the wheelchair that I thought did an excellent job acting. I thought he was great in there. I thought he was an actor. I didn't realize that he was actually a real cowboy. So I thought he did an excellent job. I don't remember his name in the film, but he did an excellent job. I think this is the point that you're probably going to make as well. I enjoyed the film, but I do kind of feel like this film would have been better served as a real documentary on the real Fletcher Street Riders or Fletcher Street Cowboys. I would have liked to see kind of like their kind of what they were all about and kind of some history of it. The film does try to explain some history about them, and they do talk about the issues that they're having in terms of the law basically not wanting them to have cowboys and horses and that sort of stuff in the city, within city limits, because they don't really have up to code stables for them. Like I said, his dad was keeping his horse in his house, in his living room, which is not ideal for setting for a horse, obviously. So it was stuff like that was just kind of like, and I feel like it would have been better served as this film was it, like you said, an actual documentary, to where you could actually, see what their lifestyle was really about, and really see kind of like what, all the different turmoils and issues they go through, because the film does talk about, other streets, not just their street, but other streets that also had, riders and cowboys and that sort of stuff that lived on other streets that got eventually shut down and ran out, and kind of gentrified. And, now there's like Starbucks and that sort of stuff on those streets. So I really would have liked to see some of that story and see how that unfolded. I think that was really interesting, because I never knew anything about, these riders, anything about these cowboys. So I would have loved to see that kind of expanded upon a little bit more. I feel like you said, that'd be kind of better served as a documentary. But overall, like I said, it was a good film, and I did enjoy it overall. What was your take?
Yeah, I agree. I liked it. I did like it. I especially liked, there's some good cinematography and some good acting, especially. I really liked Caleb McLaughlin, and he was very good. It's a lead role, and to me it shows that, he does have the chops to have like a career beyond just being one of the four kids on Stranger Things, one of the four main kids. So I liked that part of it. I liked, the real writers in the movie. I kind of had a feeling sometimes you can just kind of tell that this is either a non-professional actor, not that it's bad, but they just don't have like the actor like aura, that I bet this is a real, real person, and they were, in this case. But yeah, I agree that I think I would have liked it more as a documentary because it's, this is I did kind of know a little bit about this story, but not very much. And I would have liked to know more about the true story and the real people. Like we get a tiny bit of that during the closing credits, where you find out who was like actually not an actor in the movie, and they get to speak for a little bit. And I wish the rest of the movie was like that, because, to be honest, like you kind of mentioned, like the story here is very formulaic. It's not just like Boys in the Hood. It's like a million other movies. Like, one we just watched, Druid Peak. You remember Druid Peak?
Yeah.
We watched a few months ago.
Yeah.
It's like the kid having trouble in school, sent away by his mother to live with his father that he barely knows. His father's into something that he's brand new to. And is he going to become interested in this too? There's, so basically, the story is very much like a template. You know what I mean? Like I was pretty much able to know exactly where it was going at all times. Every subplot, the best friend subplot, I knew exactly where that was going, and that's where it went. The father subplot, the horse subplot, like all of them, I knew exactly where they were headed at all times. And, that just makes it kind of not really a thrilling experience, but
right.
I
when
did
you know
enjoy
exactly, how the story more or less is going to end for the most part. They didn't throw you any curveballs or anything like that to where I was like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that to happen. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah. For a second, I didn't. There was one subplot that for a second I thought they were going to do what I didn't expect, and then they did it anyway. So, yeah, I think it would have been better as a documentary. But I also understand that as a documentary, there would have been far less people watching it. You know what I mean? As opposed to a feature film with Idris Elba and that kid from Stranger Things. That's going to get more butts and seats. To put it that way. As opposed to a documentary, so I get that also.
Yeah.
So
yeah, true. I mean,
it was
the way I look at it is if it wasn't COVID, right, and this film was playing in theaters, you would probably be more inclined. Most people would be more inclined to go pay for, like you said, a film that stars, Elders, Idris, Elba and the kid from Stranger Things and some unknown, documentary about, guys riding horses. So I do understand that. I do get that. But, it still, I feel like, would have made for a more interesting story if they actually had, real stories about the riders and that sort of stuff. So.
Yeah, or if they had just made the story a little less, paid by numbers.
Formula. Yeah, it was definitely by the numbers. There was definitely no surprises. Nothing, nothing shocked me that happened in it. And you know what I mean? You kind of knew early on pretty much what was going to happen in the story. So, and that's pretty much the way that all those films, like you said, kind of go, as we've seen in the past. And so, yeah, like I said. But, like I said, not a bad movie. Definitely if you're looking for something that's entertaining, you're not going to be bored. It's not really long either, so you're not going to be necessarily bored or anything of that nature. It just doesn't offer anything that other than like I said, you take the horse element out of it, and it's really just a regular film about a kid going to live with his father. You know what I mean? That's just trying to stay on the straight and narrow. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty much. You know what I mean? That's really the only real element that makes it somewhat interesting is that they do ride horses, in Philly. But like I said, that story would have been.
There's the father-son story. There's the fish out of water story. There's the choice between two paths story. Basically all of them go exactly how you expect, basically.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
I
agree.
Yeah,
I agree. So,
I mean, if you haven't seen that many movies, maybe it means we've seen too many movies that we know exactly where it's going all the time, or I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, I'm
maybe
starting
it's
to feel
just
that way
not...
as I get older. The more movies I start seeing, you know what I mean. The more I can kind of see where the story's leading to, and for me, if it goes exactly the way that I thought it was going to go, it's kind of like not as exciting for me, even horror movies, you know what I mean? I can see sometimes where the story's going or kind of predict, or movies that, I've heard potentially has some sort of twist. You know what I mean? I can a lot of times see that twist coming, or at least parts of that twist coming. You know, just because I've seen so many, you know, movies that follow, you know, a similar formula or that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. Yep.
but like I said, overall, not too bad.
Mm-mm.
Anything else you want to add about Concrete Cowboy?
Nope.
All right, well, let's get into those reviews real quick. So what is the overall grade and face you would give this film?
I gave it 3.5 out of 5, which is a solid B. I enjoyed it. It wasn't great, but I enjoyed it. I'm glad I watched it. In the event that we don't get that documentary, I'm glad that somebody, you know, told the story, and for people that didn't know anything about it. So yeah, solid B, worthwhile effort. And that's just a nice, you know, just a good solid smile.
Absolutely. Yeah, I went just a little bit lower. I went to 3 out of 5 for myself. Like I said, I enjoyed it. I liked it. This is the kind of film I'd watch again. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is good for what it was. And like I said, it is informative, even though it's not a documentary. You do learn a little bit about that culture and about that lifestyle. And because they had the real actual writers in the film, you know that a lot of that must have been pretty genuine. Exactly. That's how it went. You know what I mean? So that's how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I do understand that. So I went a 3 out of 5, and I'm going to give it pretty much the same face you gave it, in a sense, which is just a big smile with no teeth. But yeah, overall, you know, a decent film. Like I said, if you got hour and 50 minutes to kill, not a bad way to go. So cool. Well, let us know down in the comments. Have you seen Concrete Cowboy? What are your thoughts, your takes? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Let us know down in the comments. As always, if you like the channel, we ask that you like, subscribe, make sure you hit that bell notification, and we'll be back again with another show for you guys again real soon. We thank you for watching and hope you have a great day. Bye.
Bye.